When you're scuba diving, your body isn't the only thing that needs covering. Of course, your hands, head and feet need covering as well, but there are lots of different gloves, boots and hood options out there to look at, so let's take a quick look at gloves, boots and hoods. Hoods. 3mm hoods. 3mm hoods are probably the thinnest hoods that you can find. They're great for tropical waters when it starts to get a little bit cooler, and they protect you from a little bit of chill, but mainly they're protecting you from bumps and scrapes as well as a lot of marine bites and stings. 5mm hoods. 5mm hoods are the standard thickness of hood that you typically find around the UK. They're warm enough that they protect you from the cold, but they're not so thick that they restrict movement or they muffle sounds too much. Normally around the face and around the neck, the thickness of the material starts to get a bit thinner, so you have some flexibility and it's more comfortable. But around the head, around your ears and the back of your head, it's typically 5mm, so it's thicker and warmer. Thicker hoods. Thicker hoods like 7mm, this 9mm or even 10mm are for the coldest of waters. The thicker neoprene protects your head from the cold from getting in. But they do muffle sounds, so they can feel a bit claustrophobic and they're a little bit harder to put on and take off. Hoods with a bib. Some hoods have a bib at the bottom that's used to overlap with your wetsuit or a cold guard around the neck seal of your dry suit. By layering up, this slows the water down so it doesn't flush straight into the hood and cool you down. Water will slowly get in, but because it has to route its way around the bib, it slows it down and gives it a chance to warm up before it actually gets to your head. Bibless hoods. If you're diving in a dry suit, then a hood with a bib can get in the way, so many hoods are made bibless. So the bibless hood will cover your head and most of your neck, but it will allow your dry suit to take over below the neck. This way you don't have excess fabric getting in the way and you don't have to worry about tucking anything in. A vent. With hoods, if you get any air trapped inside the hood whilst you're diving, as you ascend, that air is going to expand. So many hoods have a venting system in the top that allow any expanding gas to escape, while stopping any water from flooding in. Glide skin. Hoods will have glide skin material in different locations, like this one, which has it on the outside around your neck, which is perfect for wearing it and layering it up with a wetsuit. Others have glide skin on the outside around the face. These are great for full face masks, while most hoods have the glide skin on the inside so it seals against your face and slows the water from getting in. Ice hoods. Ice hoods are a thin hood that you're made to wear underneath your existing hood. These cover your top lip and your cheeks from being exposed to the cold water. They have 2 holes in them, one for your mask and one for your second stage, and you can cut these to the size that you require. The main goal here is to reduce the amount of exposed skin to the cold waters, but your second hood goes over the top of it is the one that's going to be keeping you warm. Gloves. Tropical gloves. Tropical gloves are very thin. They typically have a thin layer of material that covers your palm, which means you get greater dexterity. On the back of your hand, very thin neoprene or just some canvas is all you need, because these are made for tropical waters. They're made to protect your hands from the usual wear and tear, especially when you have wet hands. That soft skin is going to get cut easily on sharp rocks or jagged metal. Abrasion resistant gloves. Abrasion resistant gloves like these have great dexterity and traction on the hand, but they are abrasion resistant. So with sharp objects, they're just going to brush them off. They have very little thermal properties, so they're great for warmer waters, but when it starts to get cold, your hands will get cold. 3mm gloves. 3mm gloves offer you fantastic dexterity whilst giving you a decent amount of warmth whilst you're in the water. 3mm of neoprene isn't too much, so you can still use your hands for complex tasks such as writing down. But 3mm of neoprene is about as thin as you want to go if you're diving in the UK. They're great in the summertime, but when the water starts to get a bit colder, your hands will start to get colder. 5mm gloves. 5mm gloves are a great all-rounder. You can wear these year-round in the UK, but when it starts to get really cold in the winter months, they do start to get a bit cold. You are compromising dexterity with warmth, so instead of having numb hands, you now have a little less dexterity. so they're better for simple tasks like turning a torch on, but with fiddlier tasks they can get a little bit tricky. Mittens. 7mm gloves and mitts are great for really cold waters where you don't need to do complex tasks. 3 of your fingers are held together and they really do help to maintain body heat inside the glove. They're typically very snug around the wrist as well, and they limit water from getting in. So for a majority of the beginning of the dive, your hands will stay dry, but even when water does get in, they keep your hands warm. The downside is the trade-off of dexterity. You have very little dexterity, so complex tasks are hard. Dry gloves. Dry gloves work in a similar way to your dry suit, by containing air around your hands to keep them dry and warm. Because of this, a lot of gloves are a bit thicker and tougher, which reduce dexterity, but you can get some thin gloves which maintain dexterity whilst keeping you nice and warm. Underneath you wear a typical thin woolen glove that just traps a layer of air all over your hands. The downside to dry gloves is that they are a separate airspace, so pressure will apply to them. The deeper down you go, the more you'll get that squeeze. Kevlar. Kevlar grip gloves use a Kevlar-like fibre to protect your palm and fingertips. They're abrasion resistant, so if you're moving around wrecks and you don't want to damage your gloves, then a Kevlar grip is great. You still maintain a certain amount of grip and you get a decent amount of dexterity whilst using these Kevlar gloves. Glued seams. On some gloves you'll notice that the seams are glued over. This is to protect the thread from the usual damage that you get whilst handling sharp objects in the water. Glued seams mean that even if you do cut the thread, it's not going to unravel and undo. So this means that your gloves are going to last a lot longer. Seals. On the inside of the gloves you'll notice a lot of seals. These are to trap the water so it doesn't flush straight into the glove. Your gloves need to fit properly and they need to be snug around your wrists, as this slows the water down and stops it from getting into your fingers, which is what's going to keep you cold. Trapping a layer of air in and slowing water down is what makes a good glove warm. Boots. Slipper. Slippers are the most basic type of boots that you wear in tropical waters where you don't need the thermal protection of a thick neoprene boot, but you do still need a fairly solid sole to attach your open heel fin onto. Soft sole. Soft sole boots are very common. They have a soft sole which is very flexible, which makes them nice and comfortable, and you get plenty of flexibility whilst you're in the water. But if you're walking over sharp, rigid rocks whilst getting into the water, they can be a little uncomfortable. Hard sole. Hard sole boots are great for walking in over those sharp rocky terrain, but once you're in the water they do feel a lot like solid sole trainers, so they do limit the way that your foot can move around in the water, but they do protect the bottom of your foot from a lot of bumps and scrapes. Rock boot. Rock boots are for dry suits with a neoprene sock. You wear these over the neoprene sock to act as a boot to put your fin on. They protect your dry suit from the usual wear and tear, so if you wear through the boot, it doesn't matter, it isn't going to let water in, so you can just replace the boots instead of replacing the dry suit sock itself. They typically have laces, so they're a custom fit, and they're very comfortable whilst you're in the water, and even out of the water too. Socks. Neoprene socks are for the freedivers and snorkelers that wear full foot fins, but they still need some thermal protection to cover their feet. They often have a glide skin layering system to put on the inside of your wetsuit, so these keep your feet warmer for longer. But they're completely flexible while still having a fairly decent sole so that you can walk around the dive site. So that was a quick look at a few of the different glove, boot and hood options out there, but what boots, gloves and hoods do you use? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching and safe diving.